What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Devy Royale YouTube channel. Today, we are giving you a head start on your fantasy football waivers. And if you didn't watch any football this weekend, it was pretty chalky at the top. So we're going to give you some ideas and maybe talk about some of the guys that we talked about last week as well. But as always, these episodes are sponsored by Sleeper. You can get up to a $100 first deposit match if you use the code the Devy Royale. Sleeper has picks. So an example would be zero point 0.5 touchdowns on any given player. You pick whether you think they'll go over or under that. You pick that, and it's a lot of fun. So check that out on Sleeper and use the code the Devy Royale. Let's get into quarterbacks because it was kind of an up and down week. Daniel Jones was a big surprise, so we put him on here. Last week we talked about Sam Darnold. If you haven't yet picked him up, he's a better addition than Daniel Jones for sure. Uh, I know you said before you probably aren't picking up Daniel Jones because you've picked someone up throughout if you have to stream. Are you interested in Justin Fields, though, who's coming off a 25 of 32, 245, one touchdown, another rushing touchdown as well, an interception, a little fluky, but finally scored some fantasy points this week. Are you interested in picking him up now?
Yeah, I'm interested more than Daniel Jones, but he is higher owned for that reason. I think you get a conservative floor with the rushing, and he's played pretty safe, and he's still making some plays. I think there's a few more crossing plays that broke off today. I think he's starting to let loose a bit more. So as you ramp that up, and then you go up against the Colts, who are a bit of a run funnel, but you can kind of do whatever you want on them. This team likes to run, and Fields is going to also do that. So I think he's a safe option where Daniel Jones could have a good week like he did this week, or, which
Be
is really
Daniel
just like
Jones.
19 points, or he
Yeah.
could just give you 8 and really be a detriment to your team. And again, the first 2 weeks we've talked about Baker, Darnold, Carr. Like it's those are, if they're somehow available or you already picked them up, I would rather play them. But if you're looking for a quarterback right now, I think Justin Fields is a great one.
Yeah, it's worth noting. Caleb Williams did throw the ball 52 times, 51 or 52 times this week. He had 363 yards though, and so I think that's mostly on the back of the Bears not having a strong run game. So I do think the Steelers are going to pretty much just run the ball down their throats next week. But I think Justin Fields is going to be a part of that rushing attack as well. So you could get some points there if he scores some touchdowns or throws for some touchdowns. I think you're in pretty good shape if he's on your fantasy roster next week. So that's probably where we both lean. I do want to mention, though, Dallas has given up some really, really good quarterback performances, and Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors have something cooking now. So worth monitoring. Maybe this is a week early. Maybe we see it again. It's Daniel Jones. I don't have faith that he's going to do this again, completely honestly. But worth noting that Daniel Jones did this against Cleveland, and that's a really good defense. So let's get over to the running backs. So the two we have here, Emmanuel Wilson from the Green Bay Packers and Bucky Irving from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Emmanuel Wilson, 12 attempts, 50 yards, 2 receptions, 35 yards, scored 16 and a half fantasy points. Does get a really tough matchup against Minnesota in week 4, so I'm a little bit iffy on that. Bucky Irving's kind of similar in that the Eagles' run defense came to play a little bit this week, or their defense in general did. But 9 attempts, 70 yards, 3 receptions, 14 yards. He is obviously owned or rostered much, much higher than Emmanuel Wilson. So I think there's a chance Bucky Irving's not available. Out of these two, though, which would you rather have on your team right now?
Um, Consistently, I think it'd be Bucky Irving. I think Wilson get a bit more run this week just because this is week 2 of Malik Willis. Josh Jacobs ran 30 something times last week. I think they plotted him in. He played well. Don't get me wrong. I think he's RB11 on the week currently or something like that. As going into Sunday night third quarter. So he played well, but I think he got more attempts than he would a lot of weeks because Josh Jacobs is going to continue to be used as the workhorse. But Irving has continually shot up in his touches, just like Braylon Allen that we talked about last week. And I think that will continue. However, like you said, Eagles are a tough matchup against the run, as are the Vikings. So these may be more guys to pick up for the future of your team.
Yeah. Per Pro Football Focus, Rashad White ran 24 routes to Bucky Irving's 7. He played on 42 snaps to Bucky Irving's 18. So while he was super efficient with his touches, he's still not getting even close to 50% of the snaps in this backfield. So, I think it's worth monitoring. Obviously, adding him because of the efficiency, you have to assume that the snaps are going to follow at some point. So I think adding him now, getting ahead of it if you can, is a smart move. I'm still a Wilson fan, and with Marshawn Lloyd being down for a while, I do think that he's worth a stash if you have a free roster spot. I'm not dropping key guys for any of this, but if you've lost people to injury or things like that, I wouldn't mind adding Emmanuel Wilson as a stash and see, because if Josh Jacobs goes down, it's Wilson's backfield as well. So worth noting, I guess, going into week 4. Over to the wide receivers. So this is where obviously Juwan Jennings is on here after his 175-yard game on 11 receptions and 3 touchdowns. Fun fact, I wrote him up in my starts article this week, and then I deleted it because I was like, everyone's writing about Juwan Jennings. But then I found out that not many people thought that he could do this. And quite frankly, Juwan Jennings has been getting more opportunities when the entire crew is out. That's the thing of note here. So 43% rostered right now. That probably shot up right before the game this week, but I think it's worth noting that Deebo Samuel has already said that he's going to be out an extra week. George Kittle is still up in the air. I think if he plays, you can obviously temper expectations from what Jennings did in week 3. I think you can temper those expectations either way. But also it's a kind of tough New England team where I'm a little skeptical about starting Jennings this week. What are you thinking on Jennings?
Yeah, I mean, the New England defense this week tried to do everything they could to kind of take away the Jets receivers, and that's where Conklin kind of finally showed up in a lot of dump downs. He made good plays out of him, deservedly one of the better tight ends of the week. Juwan Jennings, 12 targets. I believe Ayuk also had double-digit targets. Didn't do a lot with it, but he was also getting the majority of the coverage. I think that kind of stuff continues next week with the Patriots focusing on Ayuk because they know how good he is, especially since how they were one of the teams trying to trade for him. I do think Jennings could continue to have a good week if everyone remains out, which I also expect to happen because this is a game the 49ers should win. I don't think
Yeah.
you take the Patriots lightly just because of the defense and everything. It seems like every time someone does, they beat you. But I do think the 49ers should win this game pretty handily. And Juwan Jennings should be a decent part of it. I don't think it's this game by any means because a 49ers Patriots game that isn't like 17-13, I'd be pretty shocked. But I do think he can still get you a good flex play next week.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way of saying it. On the other side of the ball, Demario Douglas, 9 targets in Thursday Night Football this last week, 7 receptions, 69 yards, 14% rostership. That did go up after the game, so the leagues that let you add players after they've played. I think, because I remember looking at it last week, I'm pretty sure it was down at 9% or something like that. So up to 14%, but certainly available in a lot of leagues. 14.8 fantasy points. San Francisco is a tough matchup, but we did just see some wide receivers, probably less talented than Demario Douglas, have some success. So, Tutu Atwell had a really good game against them. I think Douglas, while I think Hunter Henry is certainly going to have a better game than he did in week 3, I also think that this passing attack with Jacoby Brissett is always going to filter through those underneath targets at this point. So it's going to be Douglas. It's going to be Henry. I think Douglas is certainly worth having on your bench. Once again, if you have an open roster spot, I'm probably not playing him against San Francisco, but I would grab him, stash him, see what happens. 9 targets is always a good thing to add to your team, right?
It is. I do have a bit of a worry that it feels like we've gotten a new best option for the Patriots every week so far. So that's
Yep.
my big thing. I do think going into the season, I would say we both assumed Demario, Pop Douglas, whichever one you want to use, was the best receiver going into the year. Now with the 2 rookies, the end of the year that might not be the case, but as of right now, he's their best wide receiver for sure. So in theory, it should continue, but I don't know. San Francisco against tight ends, they might be trying to take away Henry. Outside receivers usually get more blanket. It's a rough matchup, so.
It is. It is. I think it's also worth noting that if they ever turn to Drake May, it could be freaking Tyquan Thornton that is playing well because, I mean, he's on the field quite a bit, and he and Drake May fit a lot better than he and Jacoby Brissett out there. So worth noting, but probably stashing. I'd take Jennings over Douglas 1-for-1 if you need someone this week for sure. Onto the tight ends. Cole Kmet. I wrote about him as a start this week. The Redditors were upset with me and they said, "You are an idiot." And I said, "Well, watch, just watch." And then luckily Caleb Williams threw the ball 50 plus times. So Cole Kmet, 11 targets, 10 receptions, 97 yards, and a touchdown. He's the tight end 2 on the week going into the back half of Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Gets a matchup against the Rams that I think he will be featured pretty heavily in their passing attack. If you look at his snaps from week 1 to week 2, they went up. Really, the back half of week 2, in the second half of that game, it was very clear that Kmet needed to be a part of that offense for the rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. And so they started scheming him touches and they started getting him more targets. I believe 4 of his 5 targets came before week 3. 4 of his 5 targets came in that second half of week 2. So there's a lot of really good signs that this isn't a fluke for Kmet, and we've seen him produce like this with Justin Fields last year. There have been some really good moments. So 46% rostered, might not be available, but easily the best tight end pickup this week, in my opinion. The other one we have here, Brock Wright. Sam Laporta sprained his ankle. He did come back out and play. I think he'll probably try to play, but Brock Wright did step in, get 5 targets, 4 receptions, 34 yards. Having a piece of the Detroit passing attack is a fine option, I think. They get Seattle in week 4, so a good defense, but also better offense on the Detroit side. So which one of these two do you want? And are you buying Kmet, I guess? Like buying the hype?
I'm not spending a lot. So I do think, again, like you said, 50 plus passing attempts will inflate everyone's stats a bit. I also think there's a bit of causality with Keenan Allen out and those somewhat intermediate targets going more towards Cole Kmet as a trusted guy, whereas we did see a lot of deep targets to everyone else. And then, all the screenplays to DJ Moore along with some quick speed targets. So the ball is being moved around. If it's a 30 passing game, which it probably will be next week against the Rams, is that 4 catches at the tight end position. That could be still a tight end 1. So there's some belief, especially because Kmet has showed us the talent in the past. But I'm not expecting anywhere near this next week. And then, Brock Wright, if he's, if Laporta's out and we're hearing that, I think that's a good thing with Brock Wright playing for an ad, but we're not going to hear that, Monday night. So that's really my issue with it. I don't think I'm like just running to the waiver wire to pick him up. And then this Lions offense really is still trying to figure out what it wants to be. Besides just great. Like they really are trying to figure out the target share and how they move it all. James Williams actually being a viable piece this year. Laporta, how we incorporate everyone in the offense. And then they are still just one of, if not the best running teams in football. So they could just run up and run it 40 times and still win games. So I really don't know if they know what they want to do yet. So a new piece tight end for a week, I don't know if I'm just trusting that would be my main concern for Wright.
Yeah, my main advice for tight ends this upcoming week is probably start your studs or start whoever's on your team at the given moment. But I think the Kmet stuff will stick. He played 73 snaps to Gerald Everett's 30. Bears an absurd amount of offensive snaps, by the way, 90 snaps on offense. Worth noting that Rome Odunze played on 89 of them. So just a really good development for the rookie. I also would say I don't think the Bears can run the ball. So 50 plus pass attempts might happen again. We'll see.
Yeah. How did they not run the ball this week?
It's really, really bad. That rushing attack, the rushing scheme, it's very, very bad. So certainly a challenge for the rookie quarterback in Chicago. As you guys can see, I have Bears above my head up here. Very disappointing week 3, but also promising. I'm in on Komet. I'm also in on a lot of those guys that we talked about, and that will do it for this waiver wire video. We hope this helps you guys and gives you a head start on putting your waiver wire plan together as you go through your week. I know we don't touch on Monday Night Football a whole lot, but that's, I always look at the waivers before Monday Night Football anyway, then I just add the 1 or 2 people that might pop on Monday Night Football. So we hope that this has brought you some value. Yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. As always, if you're interested in joining us on Patreon and supporting the channel in a bigger way, it's patreon.com/Royale. It's about $5 a month. You get a whole lot of good stuff. We've got a really fun Discord community that talks ball all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It's a good time. Feel free to join that, Debbie Royale, on Patreon. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.